Good afternoon. I'm going to find the clicker. I'd like to pick up on a number of very interesting points that Eva made. And what I heard was not to do with technology, it's all about the business. And I think that if we look back at all the presentations we've heard across the last 2 days, it's been about the how. How do we build it? What do the layers look like? All these charts with network diagrams. And somehow we've lost in the whole discussion the C of cloud, the first letter. We got a bit stuck on the last letter, which is D for delivery, and the C, which is the customer. We sort of just thought they'd work it all out and want to buy from us anyway. So I'd like to try and rebalance that a little bit and talk about how do we get growth. And the answer lies in finding the keys to accelerating adoption, customer adoption, of our cloud services. So, here we go. The first idea I'd like to talk about is accelerating time to revenue. Most of the time, have you heard we talk about accelerating time to market? That's great. I'm in market. Trouble is, no one finds me. My pricing's not right. I can't deliver yet. It's of absolute no use to be in market, but I've hit a KPI. So I think a more meaningful KPI is time to revenue. So we've got a number of things under time to market, which we're probably getting pretty good at achieving. Let's flip it over. What are the things we need to do to get to time to revenue? And there's quite a list of them. They start with demand generation. That old-fashioned word we used to know pre-cloud, which was prospecting. Now it's got a much more sexy title, demand generation. We have to build a buzz, build an ecosystem, build a fan base of those people who we have to then incubate until they're ready to want to buy our services. And then we have to help them to try and buy and onboard them and go through a more classical sales cycle. And the difference between time to market and time to revenue is the following. Customer adoption. And that really is the battleground of success for cloud companies going forward. In fact, I believe that customer adoption is in fact the new ROI. ROI is a backward measure that tells us about financial indicators that we've achieved in the past. Adoption will give us an ROI of what we can expect going forward, much more usable. So the key to all this is targeting early adopters. And often when I talk to people moving into the cloud, they think it's all about numbers. Oh, look, I've hit all these people, we've spoken to, we've emailed all these people. But the cloud is a best fit with those people who are all ready to embrace it. They're usually risk takers, they're usually techno-savvy, they usually want to be the cool kid on the block who's got the new technology. Trying to sell to people who are laggards is going to be a slow and unsuccessful exercise. So the first key in accelerating revenue and accelerating adoption is targeting those people who are going to be more probable to want to take your services. And if you remember Jeffrey Moore and the Crossing the Chasm, those buyers live down here in the green area, that 2 and 14% of technical innovators and visionaries. And we have to pitch to them to get them so excited about a product that they will then tell everybody on the other side of the chasm, the early majority, I use this service, it works for me, I think it would work for you too. We're going to move away from selling, which was the old idea that if a prospect looks like an elephant, here's a gun, go and shoot as many elephants as you can. We're going to move to now the opposite, which is how do we attract customers? How do we get them to find us and then want to try and buy our services? How do we get that conversation that we can take forward over time? That's the new dynamics of selling in the cloud. So the golden rule in sales used to be find out what they want and give it to them. Now that's pretty tough with the cloud because the cloud is a game changer. So unless they've already worked out the new game and they're there and then they can say, give me cloud because this is what I want. If we're selling to the rest of the population, we have to demystify cloud. That is the biggest challenge we have. We have to not dumb it down, but we have to turn it into terms that resonates with those people's buying preferences. So the new rule is this. And this is what makes the sales proposition so difficult. It is give your customers the ability to do what they can't currently do, but would want to if they only knew it was possible. That's quite difficult. So if our customer's here in time and knows what he wants, we've got to somehow hold his hand and lead him towards the promised land of what the future using the cloud will be. That's missionary selling. We all need a big magic wand to wave over our customers so they can get it and come with us. So we're going to look at a few simple, actionable ideas to help us with that journey. But it all comes down to capturing their imaginations. And people are influenced by the heart. And then the brain follows. So if we're trying to sell to the left hemisphere, we're not going to move them very far. We've got to appeal to a bigger picture, to a visionary, inspiring, a better future, those business outcomes that they're looking for. As soon as they want that, then we show them the how with our platforms and cloud services and tools, how they can get it. But if we try and sell the how and we hope they work out the why, we won't be successful. Now, I want you to imagine that it's 18 months in the future and you've all been fabulously successful with your cloud implementation strategies and your marketing and demand generation, value proposition articulation, channels, etc. The business is so good that you can do whatever you'd like to do with your time. The business is just running without you. What would you choose to do? Normally, there's a huge silence here because nobody is ever given the possibility to think about what would you do if you could do anything. We normally told about, here's all your constraints, now what are you going to do? I don't know about you, but I tell you what, this is what I'd be doing. That's finally what we got to be showing our customer that he's going to get. That picture of a better future, whatever it is in his context. That's what we're selling, the business outcome. However, if we get it wrong, we can't quite move to the new wave. We can't articulate the value proposition in a way that resonates with customers. We can't find enough of those early adopters who are ready to buy, to consume, to use our services. What does that future look like? What is the opposite of the beach? If the beach was utopia, what is the opposite of utopia for everyone? What color is it? Grey. Hold that idea. What's worse than grey? Black. Okay, so here's black. You get it right. It's back. This is politically correctly called becoming irrelevant to tomorrow's customers. And it's binary, isn't it? There's those people who will work out the dynamics of success to get their customer base working and installed and happy and then referring others and a happy fan base. And those guys will struggle and struggle and struggle and run out of cash. So it's a binary choice. So I would ask you, who would like to go to the beach with me? There's a limited time to think about this. Who would like to go here? Nobody. Good. You're in the right room. So this takes a little bit of rethinking because everything we learnt in the old world will not help us to be successful in the new world. The rules of the game have changed. And this is destabilizing because if you're someone like my age where we've spent all our life learning all these things and suddenly they don't have any value anymore, we're almost destroyed to the equivalent of a 13, 14-year-old child and we've got to relearn everything again. My advice, get used to it quickly, move forward. The rules of the game have changed. Some people want to get professional advice, and I think that always helps, and here's one form of advice I've seen some people trying to get. I'm having trouble telling what your future in IT is. All I can see is clouds. That's where we are. So our job is to demystify the cloud for our customers, to hold them by the hand and take them on the journey to the promised land. This is Sales and Marketing Cloud 2.0. So my question, what is your growth strategy? How are you going to get your message to your early adopters so that they can become happy customers and tell others? Do you have a growth strategy? What I've seen over the last 2 days is you'll have very good platform strategies, very good platform roadmaps, product rollout times. But growth strategies, what are the business issues your customers will be confronting in 5 years' time? And how are you building towards delivering those? Here's one growth strategy that I meet a lot when I work in the telco space. I'm sure this doesn't apply to anybody in this room, but you may know somebody who uses this strategy for dealing with the question of where am I going to find growth. There's no escape. The answer is not there. I have looked. So the three things we're going to talk about: growth mindset, product market fit. We always assume our product is fit for market. Let's re-examine that one. And the third one is customer adoption. How do we accelerate it? We heard this in Eva's presentation. She kept saying it's about transformation. It's about shaping the future. Okay, the technology is allowing us to do that. That's the enablement platform. But we have to have that vision, and we have to have a vision of where the problems, the challenges of our customers will be tomorrow, not today. This is today's battlefield. We have to move to tomorrow's battlefield. So the first thing is future focus. And the second one, and we heard it again from Eva, was innovation. The cloud creates enormous innovation because of the C in cloud, which is collaboration. It is a collaboration accelerator and a collaboration enablement. The cloud is the collaboration, the enterprise collaboration enablement platform. We have enormously intelligent teams in our organizations. If we can capture that siloed intelligence and combine it with everyone else's and then re-scramble it to build something better, that is where value is created tomorrow. And it's the cloud that allows us to do that. But it's about the people and how we use it and the mindset we have for using it. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Has anyone heard that one? Well, I'd say think again. Have a look at this. Picture I took myself. You can teach an old dog new tricks if the dog wants to. So here's the point. Old thinking and new technology equals a fail. We've got the new technology. We've heard about it for the last 2 days. Now we've just got to upgrade our mindset, our vision of the future, the way we interact with the cloud. And it goes back to the first C. It's collaboration, it's co-creation, and it's culture. They're the drivers of success going forward. The cloud just makes those technically possible. Part of the challenge, though, is change and overcoming the barriers to change. The elephant, you can probably recognize his leg here. Why is it the strongest animal known to man doesn't break the chain and walk away? Has anyone thought about this? Because, first of all, is he actually strong enough to break the chain? Yes. So why doesn't he do it? Because he's been conditioned. When the elephant was a baby, he was chained, and he tried once, twice, I don't know how many times an elephant tries, before he learns. He says, I've learnt this. I cannot break the chain. I never need to waste my time doing this again. I know. I have learnt. Trouble is, 3 years later, he's 10 times bigger and can break the chain. But because he's never challenged his assumptions, he's never actually tested what can be done. So the biggest challenge with the cloud is challenging our assumptions. So we revalidate them or not, are they still valid for the future that the cloud enables? So tomorrow morning, when you're looking in the mirror, I want you to look and say, when was the last time I was using elephant-like thinking? And try and catch yourself with a gravitational pull to the past of using our pre-cloud mindset, values and thinking. And that takes us into strategy. And are you behind the curve or are you ahead of the curve? And this is classical strategic thinking about when you're on an emerging business, at what point do you exit, which is usually before it actually plateaus and so you can get onto the new one. Very hard to do. Think about Dell. They took that model of just-in-time building and delivering and the latest model, the best price, right to the very, very finite point, and then the market shifted to wanting other devices than PCs, tablets, intelligent smartphones, and their model, which was production-centric, didn't go any further. They hadn't spent enough on R&D, on innovation, and they didn't have the culture. They were a just-in-time shop. It worked for them very well for 25 years, but at that point, they couldn't change curves and get onto the new one. Maybe that will change. So you've got to be looking at disruptive opportunities. Most of us are in selling current customers our current or hopefully cloud-enabled services. So we're trying to defend our business here. If we go a bit further into the extent we're trying to sell new customers, new products, we're trying to extend our customer franchise. But the upside, and ever called it transformation, it lives in the last box, which is all about white spaces, imagining, visioning those new opportunities to deliver services that have been previously unserviced. Innovation happens in the white space, but it takes a corporate culture that allows us to innovate. It allows us to try and fail and be recognized for failing, because that means we're one step closer to success. The challenge is, at the same time, we have to keep it all simple enough so that a 7-year-old child could understand our value proposition and want it. And we have to do that by using what I call meaningful usage examples and scenarios. And Eva showed us three different customers using cloud services in different contexts for different business outcomes. The more we can speak, not in terms of our technology and the how, but the business benefits that others are getting in their business domains, the more compelling, the more convincing it is. And then if we can align that, and this is some research I've taken from IBM, align that with the buyer persona. And what is the customer value proposition and the value chain? And are we selling to people who are trying to be optimizers, just get more out of the same? Are we selling people who are innovators in the middle? Or are we selling to people who are really trying to disrupt their company or their industry? And what changes is the way we tell our story, the vocabulary, the alignment we're seeking. It's still the same services, it's still the same cloud stack, but the way we articulate it to those different buyer personas is totally different. And the challenge is, how do we build different marketing channels to carry those messages, or how do we arm our sales force to be able to speak this way to this guy and this way to someone else? And that takes real skill and talent. Interesting piece of research. From earlier this year, I found customers are completing 57% of a buying cycle, those decision steps we all go through when we're going to make a purchase decision, before ever coming into contact with a representative of the company. In other words, a human being. 57% of our decision is made through influence, and that influence is online and virtual. What does that tell us? The whole idea of sales and marketing has changed. They blur together. Marketing, I believe, is sales of tomorrow. If we can get them giving the right message to the right population, to those early adopters we identified. So it means we have to change the way we think. We've got to stop doing the old way and react a little bit more quickly than here. Einstein said, the definition of insanity, doing exactly the same thing but expecting a different outcome. How many of us are guilty of doing that? I know I am. That's the elephant. This is the hard part of change. We have to start here. It's easy to say change, they'll change. That'll change it. Change starts here. We have to become much more agile and adaptive, and we have to read the indicators of change. And sometimes they're quite clear and obvious, and sometimes a little bit harder to follow. Try and do that. I defy you. It's not humanly possible unless you're schizophrenic. So it's all about, to use Eva's word, it's about transformation. That's what we're selling ultimately to our customers, a way for them to transform their business using our cloud products and service stack. And this is what it looks like. The old world going to the garbage dump. The on-premise model is being superseded. Okay, let's talk about product market fit. Have you ever heard, build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a bath to your doorstep? A lot of us, I think, are in the better mousetrap model. customer doesn't want a bed of mousetraps. He wants no mice. Remember the story about a drill? We don't want a drill. We all own one. We don't want one. We want a hole, but you can't buy holes, so we buy a drill to get there. Got to focus on the outcome. It's not so simple, though, because Henry Ford said if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. If a car didn't exist, how can you expect your customers to say, I need a car, I'd like it like this? That's where we are with cloud. For those people who aren't yet there, they can't speak in cloud terms, but we're trying to sell them a car until we can show them what it does for them. The experience. When you buy a car, what do they want to do? Get you inside it and let you feel the experience. It's the experience that makes the sale. How do we get clarity? Crystal clear, razor-sharp clarity of vision around that. And I think it starts with having 3 levels of differentiation. The first one is what I've seen very well in all the presentations, the product stack, the platform, the service definition. Well, I will turn it off. I don't want to do that. And that's the technology, the price performance, and product quality. And I think everybody is really 110% on track here. Let's move to the next ring, which is the support services. How do you support those services for your customer? Is it after sales? Is it migration? Is it design and implementation? What are all those things that are going to help you if we said it's what are those products we're going to offer at the hand-holding and moving them onto the cloud stage? That's the piece we're looking for here. So what does that include? That includes levels of support, and we can productize our support and build it into bundles with the actual platforms. Quality of service, but it's all delivered by systems and processes. And the last one is the end-to-end customer experience. And this is a whole new frontier which is just starting. And it's about high touch, high contact with customers. Delight and astound them. And your cloud services are right in the middle. If we look at it on the Boston Consulting model, the Blue Ocean strategy. Anybody studied the Blue Ocean strategy? Wonderful, because what does it do? It allows us to visualize something, and once we can visualize it, we can deal with it with both hemispheres, and therefore more creatively. So we have price is always one, but you can see there's about 30 attributes on the one they're working on here. There's product attributes, there is services attributes, and there is customer experience, and we have to be building to all 3 if we want to compete and win in the new world. Rackspace. I'm sure most people know Rackspace here. What do they compete on? Product? Price? They compete on something they created, fanatical support. Their differentiator is ring 2 of my model. Do we care how they do it, on what platforms, on what bits and bytes, feeds and speeds? No, we assume they know how to do that piece. We want to know we're buying an SLA delivering uptime. And we want the fanatical support that they will be able to resolve our issues if and when we have. Last point, customer adoption. And that's about education. Selling to a new population, to these non-cloud people to help them come and join the party is a big piece of education. But it's a big piece of inspiration. We have to inspire them with pictures that speak to them, that resonate with whatever their view of the world is in their context, in their sector, in their industry, that are meaningful in their business environment. We have to find ways to inspire them. And the best way to inspire somebody is show them what their competitors have done and how that's made them more competitive. That inspires people big time. But we have to inspire tomorrow's adopters because they're the ones that will be making the purchase decisions 5 years from now. So, how many of you have a VP of customers, a VP of early adopters, a VP of customer experience? If you don't, get one quick. This guy owns your future, and he's not even on the payroll. We have a CTO. Do you know the CTO's got a new name in the cloud? Do you know what it is? He is Chief Transformation Officer. Business transformation using technology. And the CIO, do you know what his new name is in the cloud? He's the Chief Inspiration Officer. To inspire customers using technology. We're trying to solve a problem for a customer, and it starts over here at -3, where they're basically happy. They're in the status quo. I don't need a cloud, it's working okay. Well, it could be better, but hey, I can live with this. So we've got to threaten, we've got to destabilize the status quo for these customers, and we've got to move them from a -3 to a -2, which is helping them to identify their needs after they see there is a reason to change. And then we have to help them define the solution. So we're really trying to answer the question, why? And none of the presentations that I've seen over the last couple of days have really put the focus on the why. It's all been about the what or the how. Once we've got them there, then we can do the next piece, which is why us? And I think all of you do that an exceptionally good job on the why us. And this is why marketing and sales blur together so much, because we've got the -3 to 0 is all about demand generation. And there's multiple ways to do that: website, social events, campaigns, calling, all those things. Then we get to identification of viable vendors, reviewing different approaches, making a decision. We have to communicate value. And that's perhaps more classical selling, meetings, follow-up, presentations, proposals. But if we look at the mix of sales and marketing across that journey, it looks like this. Marketing does all the front-end work, and then progressively sales takes over. How many of you have that sort of alignment in your organizations? Everybody, good. I keep turning this off, I do not want to do that. So acceleration is all about removing the barriers to that journey to the cloud. How do we remove the barriers? Well, we have to think at 3 time horizons. The first one is in the short term, 3 to 6 months, in the midterm with the binoculars, 6 to 12 months, and then we have to have a long-term view. Because the cloud is not a transactional short-term solution. It can be for some who are ready, but then we've got to be building the next wave of customers who are going to be ready in 12 months, and we've got to be identifying those people who in 2-3 years will be ready to come across. So we've got to be thinking strategically at 3 horizons. Business drivers go down, change drivers go up, operational needs drivers go up, and so we can split it into, and Eva talked about operational efficiencies and economies, and I call that operational excellence. That's one sales model. We tend to default to that because the other one's much harder to describe and to articulate, and that is the business transformation. How can we take our capabilities and show customers what can be done in that space? That's the next sweet spot going forward. Then we've got to work out how we're going to get our message to market. And this is a piece of work I did for a client a little while ago who had a very complex model, and I couldn't get my head around it until I could map it, and then worked out for which product sets, who they sell through and how they on-sell it, and so on. And you have to have razor-sharp visibility on each one and every one of those connections in your go-to-market model if you're working through an ecosystem. Because the cloud is a community. The cloud is an ecosystem, and succeeding in an ecosystem is a team sport. Success in the cloud is a team sport. So we have to have a very clear mapping of how we're going to involve all the players across the space. And if we do all that right, we can then map the customer's experience at each one of his touch points in that journey with us through to becoming a customer. And there's lots of different ways to do that. That's the next frontier, which is enabled again by the cloud. So if we can do all that right, we go here. And that's what I propose we do right now. So I want you to think of one thing, and that is the sun burning the tips of your toes, the salt-encrusted sand on the tips of your toes as you enjoy a better life in the cloud from the beach. Thank you.